Hi, everyone, and welcome into Conversations with Dr. Charles Ackle. I'm Pat Bryant, the head of branding here at Emmy. Have you ever heard about immunoadjuvancy? Well, you're going to hear about it today as we talk to this gentleman here in the picture with me, Dr. Charles Ackle. Let me tell you who he is. He's the Chief Medical Officer here at Emmy. He's a fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons. He's trained in medicine at Guy's Hospital in London. As you'll find, he's distinctly British. And he spent decades researching immunology in addition to teaching a legion of surgeons in the UK. So once again, Dr. Ackle, welcome in. It's so great to spend time with you today.
Hi, Pat. Good to talk to you again. Always a pleasure.
Well, before we dive in, I want to remind people, if you're watching this for the first time and you want to be notified of when we're going to be posting new information, be sure to hit the subscribe button. And also, if you'd like to learn more about Emmy, be sure to go to emmy.co. That's IMMY.co. Well, Dr. Ackle, we're going to talk about a pretty big word, but one that's become pretty important in what we do, which is the word immunoadjuvant. So just at a high level, what exactly is that?
It's really important. We didn't really appreciate immunoadjuvants, particularly in many cellular immune cancers and conditions, not just cancer. So the concept of an adjuvant is really like an enzyme in biochemistry or a broker in the business world. He's something that makes something happen. It's a facilitator for a process. Now, what most people don't realize is that the standard idea of a vaccine, which is, say, let's say tetanus toxoid, the standard tetanus or not measles, but the tetanus type vaccines, which are antibody based, won't work if they don't have an adjuvant. We all think that if we take a little bit of something bad and it doesn't kill us, but it makes us stronger, and then something bad comes along, we're cured. Well, the truth is, if you give a baby a shot of tetanus toxoid, 96% of the time, nothing happens.
Hmm.
It doesn't produce any reaction other than local toxicity. So you have to adsorb it onto aluminum,
Right,
as
aluminum here.
you say, aluminum, alum material, which is the adjuvant, because
Okay.
what the alum does is it induces a reaction locally, and all the little dogs of the immune system come to sniff it and say, hang on a minute, what's this? And then they detect the antigen that you're trying to target. And they say, right, I'll remember that. And you have to do it 2, 3, 4 times. As you know, babies have to be vaccinated several times in their
Sure.
early years to develop a full vaccine. And this is why there have been big headaches trying to get vaccines for malaria, getting vaccines for flu, even the COVID vaccine, and of course, cancer. And the reason is that these other conditions are cell-based rather than antibody-based immune systems. And we've sort of forgot that they still need an adjuvant.
Yes.
You take a bit of the cancer that is trying to kill you, you kill it off and you put it in as a vaccine, and you think, well, the body will react to it. It won't. It'll only react to it if you have some kind of adjuvant effect to create it. So this
So, I,
concept of
so
Go
I've
ahead.
heard, I've heard you talk about orchestration. Is that the same thing? I mean, is that the same concept here?
There you go. So
Okay.
coming to that exactly, it's the orchestrator that makes the orchestra work. So in any kind of system, and the immune system is just like an orchestra, there are so many different instruments, whether it's the strings, the trumpets, the drums, whatever. Somebody's got to put all this together. And that is the conductor, the orchestrator, whatever you want to call it. And this is where but bacteria like IMI, the mycobacteria and mycolysibacteria, are such excellent immunoadjuvants because they have this facility to make the immune system, particularly the cell-based immune system, sit up and take notice of what's going on.
And so
And
why is that so important? I guess for those who are far less educated in this, like me, is the immune system smart enough to know, hey, go fight, go don't fight? I mean, how does that immunoadjuvancy work in terms of interacting with the immune system?
well, Certainly the fight, don't fight regime is incredibly important, but there's the even more important, it's part of the don't fight, is tolerance.
Hmm.
And we know that when that goes wrong, that's a problem because we're surrounded by all sorts of triggers and antibodies and antigens and goodness knows what that actually wouldn't do us any harm. So if you think of asthma, kids that are allergic to a bit of pollen, they destroy themselves. The reaction of the immune system is what damages them. It's not the pollen. Pollen's harmless, but because their immune system takes one look at the pollen and says, oh my goodness, look at this, and induces a massive reaction, that then creates the danger for the asthmatic and many, many, many other
Sure.
conditions.
So is that over adjuvancy? I mean, for lack of a better term, or is it just your body's just not reacting correctly to
It's
that adjuvant?
correct that the body's just not reacting appropriately to that antigen, and the adjuvant would, if you got the right one, would help hopefully to say, hang on a minute, this you don't need to worry about this. This is not going to do you any harm. There's no danger here.
Right.
And that's part of the problem of modern life. We're now being exposed to so many things that when we lived in the wild and with nature, we came across all these issues when we were kids and babies, and we learned how to tolerate them. A little bit of dirt, as somebody says, always does you good. You learned how to cope with these. But when you weren't exposed to them, and then you get exposed to them in adult life, you get these overreactions, and that affects everything from asthma to the mood, the mental health issues, and even cancer.
Mm. Mm.
So
So,
cancer is a big issue, and it's one
yeah.
reason we've not been able to get a decent cancer vaccine for a long, long time. It's only now that people are beginning to understand that with the way of trying to treat cancers with immunotherapy, which is absolutely the top way of doing it, by having the right adjuvant, you get a much, much, much better effect. That's, by the way, where the microbiome comes in. We know that the gut organisms are absolutely fundamental to how well you react in terms of your treatment, chemotherapy or immunotherapy for cancer, and how the microbiome reacts in its own complex way is
Sure.
also implicated by bacteria like the IMI bacteria acting as an immunoadjuvant.
And we're going to talk about microbiome specifically here in a little bit because you hear a lot more about it on TV and articles and things of that sort. So, in a couple of minutes we have left, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about IMI. And, one of the things you've talked a lot about and you've educated many on is the immunoadjuvant effect of IMI. So help us understand how that originates in the gut and how that actually functions in the body.
Well, the thing about IMI and all the mycobacteria that are related to it, these naturally occurring, what we call commensals, they're like symbiotic agents that live with us. They don't sit in our gut or on our skin. You swallow them, and they're tough little things, and you poop them straight out.
Mhm.
Like lactobacilli, for example, which everybody knows about, which colonize the gut, and about 30,000, by the way, other organisms that can live in
Right,
your gut, and viruses and yeasts and things which sit and live there. But IMI and its sister organisms are pooped straight out.
right.
Now, the whole point about that is that they produce a constant little trigger to induce an immunoadjuvant effect, to teach the mycobacteria and train them in such a way, or at least teach the body not to overreact to the microbiome and the bacteria that are in the lumen of the gut. So the body can detect the tiny, tiny, tiny amounts of IMI. There are special cells called microfold cells, M cells in the gut, whose job
Mhm.
it is to do that. And then they talk in a very interesting and complex way to the immune system. They interact with the bacteria, and generally, that's a good interaction, teaching you the right way rather than the wrong way to react and overreact to something that isn't actually going to do you any harm.
Sure. It's just so fascinating. I mean, it's also fascinating how the body works and how a product like Emmy works naturally with the body, to be that orchestrator. So thank you, Dr. Ackle. This is once again has been a great conversation with you. We're going to do them again. So if you are tuning in for the first time, again, be sure to hit that subscribe button. If you like this material and you like to learn more and go deep, inside of the brain of Dr. Ackle. Ouch, that might hurt, but it's totally harmless. Then we look forward to seeing you here again. So thank you, Dr. Ackle. We're going to do this again on many different subjects.
A pleasure.